In the first century, getting sick was more than a physical crisis. It was a social death sentence. A disease could strip you of your health, your family, and your right to enter the temple. To be unclean was to be invisible. Desperate for relief, the ancient world lived on the thin line between medicine and the occult. They turned to everything: bitter herbs, consecrated oils, and complex prayers. But they also turned to amulets and secret rituals, practices that looked less like medicine and more like dark magic. This was the world Jesus stepped into. It was a world crowded with healers, magicians, and miracle workers, yet it was still a world drowning in suffering. So why did his healings cause such a shockwave? Why did the authorities find him so dangerous? Because he wasn't just curing bodies, he was dismantling an entire system of spiritual gatekeeping. He wasn't following the rules of the ancient healers. He was doing something the world had never seen, and that's where the story changes. In first century Judea, illness was never just about physical pain. It was a slow erasure of the self. A disease could make you weak, it could make you poor, but most dangerously, it could make you unclean. To be unclean meant total isolation, distance from your family, your community, and your God. A simple skin disease didn't just threaten your body, it deleted your social existence. When these people sought healing, they weren't just fighting to survive, they were fighting to return, to come back to their homes, back to their children, and back to the temple. Because the need was so desperate, the line between medicine and superstition vanished. People turned to anyone, local healers, traveling physicians, and priests. They used oil and wine, secret herbs, and spoken formulas that felt more like incantations than prescriptions. In this world, medicine and belief were a single blurred reality. This is why healing was the ultimate form of power. Anyone who could truly restore a broken body didn't just gain trust, they gained authority. Then Jesus entered the scene. He didn't use the tools of the trade, no complex formulas, no protective amulets, no ritual objects. He used a touch, a word, and the results were immediate. But the real shock wasn't just that he could heal, it was how he redefined the way healing worked. In the ancient world, the lines we draw today didn't exist. There was no clear boundary between the doctor, the priest, and the spiritual fixer. When a body broke, the response was a desperate, multi-directional scramble. You might receive herbs and bandages in one hand, while the other was being anointed with oil and wrapped in protective amulets. Some treatments were practical, others were ritual. Most sat in a gray area that we would call magic. But for a mother with a dying child, the category didn't matter. Only one question did. Did it work? This desperation created a world of competing answers. Local healers offered secret remedies, priests inspected your purity, and traveling physicians brought expensive techniques from the Greco-Roman world. But under the surface of every cure was a foundation of fear. Fear of the pain, fear of the contagion, and the terrifying suspicion that your sickness meant something deeper was wrong. In the first century Judea, disease wasn't always seen as random biology. It was often viewed as a spiritual mark, linked to sin, to spirits, or to divine judgment. Healing, therefore, was never just physical. It was an emotional and religious exorcism. Then, Jesus stepped into this world of chaos. He ignored the usual system. No charms, no paid remedies, no long whispered ritual formulas. He acted with a single terrifying thing: authority. And that made him impossible to ignore. Because once healing stops depending on the old system starts to feel threatened.
Jesus did not heal like a village healer. He did not heal like a priest, and he certainly did not heal like a physician. That was the problem. He didn't just break the rules, he ignored the boundaries entirely. He touched the unclean, he spoke to the outcasts, he healed in the open, in front of the world, and he did it instantly. No long, grueling processes, no gatekeepers to verify his power. That kind of authority draws crowds, but it also raises a dangerous question. If healing can happen outside the accepted system, then what is the system actually for? In the first century, healing was the ultimate form of social control. Priests judged who was pure, communities enforced the distance, tradition shaped every expectation. Then Jesus entered the picture and began restoring people directly. He wasn't just curing bodies, he was rebuilding lives. A leper is touched and made whole. A bleeding woman is restored to her family. A blind man sees the world for the first time. These weren't private recoveries behind closed doors. They were public shocks to the status quo. Each miracle carried the same message. The boundaries everyone feared were not as final as they thought. Jesus was no longer just a healer. He was becoming a threat to the very structure built around human suffering. But there was a deeper shadow looming, because while some illnesses were treated with herbs and oil, others were believed to come from something far darker.
In the time of Jesus, not every condition was seen as mere sickness. Some shadows were deeper. Some cases looked purely spiritual: possession, torment, a mind breaking in public, a body that no one could control. For these people, medicine was useless. They weren't looking for a physician, they were looking for deliverance. They needed someone with absolute authority over forces they couldn't see but could certainly feel. It was a world paralyzed by fear, not just the fear of physical pain, but the terror of what might be lurking behind it. In this realm, healing isn't a treatment, it's a confrontation. It is power against power. This is where Jesus stood apart. He didn't just treat symptoms. He didn't negotiate with the shadows. He commanded. He spoke and the chaos settled. He restored, and the results weren't gradual, they were immediate. That kind of authority was impossible to explain, especially in a world already crowded with magicians, rituals, and rival spiritual claims. Because if even the unseen obeyed him, then this was no ordinary teacher. And that leads to the final question. If the ancient world was already full of people trying to heal the sick, why did the healings of Jesus feel completely different?
The real difference was never that Jesus healed. Others in the ancient world claimed to heal too. The true distinction lay in what his healings meant. They were not just cures, they were restorations. He didn't simply remove physical pain, he returned people to life. He gave them back their families, their communities, and their dignity. In a world drowning in expensive medicine, rigid ritual, and paralyzing fear, Jesus made healing personal. It was direct, it was immediate, and it was impossible to box into the old system. That is exactly what made it so threatening. Because when suffering is lifted without the usual barriers, the power starts to shift. And whenever power shifts, resistance follows. The real question is not whether the people of the first century used medicine or rituals or even practices that looked like magic. They did. The question is why none of it ever made an impact like this. It's because Jesus was not just offering relief, he was revealing authority. And in a world built on gatekeepers and fear, that authority changed everything. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the mysteries of the ancient world,
Make sure to like and comment. To see more stories that change the way we look at history, subscribe to Enigma Bible.